Hi guys, welcome again to the Deep Talks in the Self Pass YouTube and also Facebook. So we are here already to have a great conversation. I can tell you because we have been talking for the last 10 to 15 minutes and it's already a fun talk. So probably will be even better with you in your side watching all of this. We have great panel, great guests here, so we can start introducing everyone from Argentina to India, passing by with the Netherlands and also the UK. So our guests are really great guests for our chat tonight or today or this morning. It depends where you are watching this. So we'll start with Gaby from Argentina. Hello, Gaby. How are you?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for this invitation. It's a pleasure for me. It's a pleasure for Argentina to be represented here today to speak about something that we love so much, which is hockey.
We'll get to know Gaby better. She works for Hockey Delivery. Also from the Netherlands, Sander. Hi, Sander. How are you?
Hello, Thiago. Very good. Thank you.
Sander works for Hockey.nl. Also, we'll get to know him better in the following seconds. And from India, Jaspreet. How are you, Jaspreet?
Hey, Thiago. How are you? It's good to join so many guys from different part of the world.
Jaspreet is assistant editor sports in Times of India, and we'll get to know him even better. He's later in India than, for instance, in Argentina. Yeah, so it's going to be a nice talk. And also from the UK, Rod, how are you?
Hello, good evening, good morning, afternoon, everyone. Great to see some global faces.
Rod from the Telegraph and also editor in the Hockey paper. So great guest here tonight or today or this morning, wherever you are watching. So it will be a great fun to speak with all these guys that work with media in hockey. So we'll start to get to know them better. We can ask all of these guys what they do, how they do it, their experience. We can start from Rod, that he was the last entering here. Rod, what's your experience regarding media in hockey? You work for the Telegraph, also from the Hockey paper, and we just want to know a little bit more from you and your work.
Yeah, sure. Well, my first game was with the Telegraph at the 2010 Commonwealth Games in Delhi. England v India. Didn't go well for England that day, Jaspreet, as we all know. But that kind of gave an insight into the sport. 15,000 people in Delhi screaming for India to win, and 6 sort of English journalists who knew nothing about the sport, which gave an indication about how the game is covered in the UK. So that was my first experience, and then I covered it for the Telegraph for about 5-6 years, and in a full-time capacity there, and then left, and I still freelance at the Telegraph, and in 2016 set up the Hockey paper, a print and digital title.
Okay, so this is a raw experience. I don't know.
With the but with a global feel online, and it's as a sort of Olympic journalist who used to cover football and cricket, and obviously those sports are now managers and communication.
I think that we are having some issues with Rod's connection. I don't know if Sander, Gaby, and Jaspreet are experiencing the same thing. Rod?
Yes.
Oh, okay, we stopped hearing you for a little bit, but I think that we can listen to you again now. No, maybe the connection is not as good with Rod, so we will wait a little bit. If Rod can keep on telling us about his experience, we can go to Argentina, to Gaby, and to listen to what she has to say regarding her experience. Rod will be back in a little bit. Let me tell you that obviously you can also send your questions, your subjects for our conversation. We have also already here a message from Bernard saying, hey, all looking forward to listen to this conversation. And obviously from Argentina, Vicky Vidal sending also love for hockey delivery. Gaby, your experience and your path in hockey media.
Well, we started as a team back in 2007. We started it as a hobby. We wanted to share with the fans what we were feeling as hockey players. Everybody was a journalist there, a reporter, a communicator. I was working on education. I still work on education. I was a lawyer, but I've been a hockey fan and a hockey player since I was 7 years old. I still play. Hope I can continue playing. And it all started kind of like a game, and we said why is it that in Argentina 90% of people who play hockey are women, but 10% who are directing it or are telling us what they think about hockey are men? So we decided kind of looking for the other side, the side of the majority in this case, to open up a radio show. It started growing. It was crazy, and since 2007 we've been on air. We've been on air for 12 years consecutively, and afterwards we started growing on social media as well, and it became incredible because we had the chance to travel around the world to cover all these different tournaments and getting to know not only reporters from all around the world, but also the players and the coaches. And it's been quite a trip, quite a journey. Yeah, it was awesome. I think that hockey media here in Argentina has grown out of independent people. The big media are not giving the right coverage. So we had to cover that space. But well, in that way, independently, and looking forward to make more people fall in love with this game that is amazing.
The experience of Gaby with this radio show, that's also enthusiastic idea, obviously. Sander, in Holland, you work for Hockey.nl, one of the major websites and media from hockey worldwide. What's your experience in working in hockey?
Well, Leah, I'll just start with a small introduction as well. I just started playing hockey when I was 5 or 6 years old, and when I quit playing, then I just started as a reporter on different sports, on hockey, football, tennis. Actually, I did a lot of poker as well, which was really different. So I have some experience in different areas. And now the last 4 years, I work for Hockey.nl, which is great. And we can go to all the tournaments, and we have a nice we work with 7 people, so we're actually a really serious outlet for hockey and editorial for hockey, and we have a lot of photographers and a lot of people who make nice videos and stuff. So that setup is really nice. So it's a really professional setup. Actually, my image is freezing. Do you still hear me or not?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. No, but I like it that Hockey.nl is really professional with so many people working for it, and So and the hockey landscape in Holland is, I mean, well, media-wise, it could be bigger. I mean, actually, we are the biggest with Hockey.nl, and actually, it would be nice to maybe have 1 or 2 professional competitors. I don't even see it as competitors, but just really nice websites or stuff. But I mean, of course, the Holland has got 1,000 hockey pitches, which is, I think, more than any other country in the world. So it's like a hockey Valhalla. It's like a hockey paradise, I think. So yeah, that's great.
And that's the Sander's experience. He is still freezing, but we'll get to see him also moving in the image soon. Jaspreet from India. It's late already in India, but he's still here with us, also bringing his experience regarding hockey. And you work for Times of India, also obviously looking for everything that happens in hockey.
Yeah, it's never late to join hockey family, first of all, whenever
Yeah,
it is.
that's true. That's true.
Because it's a small family anyways, so it's always good to know more and more people as you go along. And as you told that I'm working for Times of India now, the digital wing of it, and covering hockey for now a better part of 13 to 14 years. Started way back in 2006 or 7. I played hockey also a little bit for my state side, Delhi as well, at the zonal level, and started playing in school when I was 12 years old, and that's how I fell in love with the game. And eventually, it has carried on to become my career, and it's always good to make some of your passion your profession if you can do that. So it's always, the work doesn't feel like work if you're doing that. So that's my journey as of now. And as you know, hockey in India is big, but it can be bigger in terms of media coverage that the sport is getting off late. Uh, which is generally when the team does well. When the team does not do that well, the media coverage goes down, which is natural as well. But it can be consistent.
Okay, we'll talk about that. That's one of the interesting topics for this live, Self-Pass Live, the details. Rod, we can come back to you with your amazing voice, let me tell you, because it's really a nice voice. You can work wherever you want, radio with Gaby or on television. It's really nice. But we couldn't hear you until you're finishing. So you can tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, I don't know how much you caught of the. I'll get up to the hockey paper bit, but I mean, I see myself as one of the few English journalists covering the game, which for a sort of hockey playing country, well known with sort of men's Olympic and more recently the women's gold medal. It should be a more vibrant media atmosphere, but unfortunately that is far from the case. So there are very few English journalists covering the game regularly. Which makes the job either a hard task or just sort of wanting to sort of go into battle to try and get more coverage, which I think, as all the colleagues here will testify, is you're doing it for the love of the game, really, not just as a job. And that's certainly how I see it, especially sort of investing in the hockey paper and trying to grow that business and trying to get people reading about the sport. Because there really aren't many billboard sort of poster sort of stars, although the Olympics did that for the country. A lot of the British public still don't know who these top hockey players are in England, which is a real shame. And that can only be down to sort of what the governing body are doing, the way they treat the domestic game, which I'm sure we might touch on. And it'd be great to get the views of how it's sort of treated in Argentina, for example. So it's just growing it from there, really. I mean, the game's got so many stories to tell. Even in lockdown, there's never a sort of a slow day. You know, there's always news to tell. Even it's about writing about the FIH and sort of telling the truth there, down to sort of the players and trying to lift it. Because at the end of the day, we're all really trying to promote the game. We're not PR people, but we're trying to promote the sport.
Yeah, that's really the truth, and we will have to speak more about that. These topics that Rod, that Jaspreet, that Sander, and Gaby were talking about. The next thing that I want to know, it's one of your experience, the best experience you had working with hockey, not as a player, but as a media personality. Can you tell me your best experience? Can you select one from many, obviously, that you have? Can we go back to Argentina, to Gaby?
Well,
Sander is still...
Can should I get out of the chat or?
Sander, you can go out and come back. Try.
Yeah.
We still listen to you perfectly, but you are your image is freezed. Like if you are really focused on what we are talking about. But if you can go out and come back, it's okay. That's up to you. We'll still gonna hear now Gaby and your experience.
I was going to say that it was a great experience to be in The Hague in 2014. Although we experienced losing Lucia Aymar, which I believe that she was in such a great level that she was going to be considered once again the best player in the world, you know. But I must say that 2010 being the champions here in Rosario made a great deal of falling in love with this journalism and reporting, apart from being a hockey fan or a hockey player, because it was the first opportunity we had to see a really good team and all the teams in the world playing back home in such an incredible tournament, you know, in such a different thing, which apart from that created a boom in the growth of hockey and hockey players here in Argentina. Although we had always had lots of players, it all started back in the 1900s with English schools here, and this is the reason for why Argentina has so many women playing instead of men playing. Yes, being there in Rosario, being on the Great and working there and seeing what was happening was really moving. You know, really moving. The crowds, people that we were working with, we were a very big team to give a very good coverage. We were on air not only for Hockey Delivery but for other radios. Yes, and broadcasting live there from Rosario. So I believe that was an incredible experience.
Regarding also the results and having a big tournament such as that one in Rosario in Argentina, obviously it's one of the biggest points. Jaspreet, how about you? Your biggest, more iconic experience in hockey?
Iconic in terms of coming back to the Olympics, of course, the 2012 qualifying tournament where we reached the Olympics back after missing the 2008 Beijing Games was something really special. It happened on home soil as well, so that made it even more special. Sandeep Singh was on a roll during that tournament. He was our go-to man and he delivered as well, and we romped through to the Olympics back again. And I remember Michael Nobbs was the coach then, and he had told me before the tournament as well that we are going to make it. And then when India finally qualified for the game, I was standing on the sidelines. He came and gave me a high five, and I remember that day the most because it was special. We came back to the Olympics. We have a very rich history of the Olympics. We were almost unbeatable at one stage, winning Olympic golds like a left-hand job. So this was something really special that when we came back to the Olympics in 2012, and I'll always remember that game.
Very well. And Rod, how about you? Your the experience that you had that you remember the best?
Well, I like to say it would be sort of East Grinstead 5, Wimbledon 4 on a very cold Sunday afternoon in front of 30 people. But I think it's got to be, I mean, it has to be the Rio final in 2016, mainly because of the run that GB women were on, and it was one of the last goals on the Friday night there, and of course playing the Dutch in the final, where really Britain were going up against, you know, the sort of the feared team, and everything came together in that 1 week. Was a very special thing, and that's spawned the hockey paper actually on the back of that. And just seeing the sort of the journalists there who would sort of rarely cover hockey there, every paper covered the event, and the deadline time was, well, for me and one other, it was actually right on the whistle. So I had no time to take in everything, and I was just frantically typing away, sending the copy, and going down to sort of speak to to the team. It was a very memorable moment, especially for the guy from the Daily Mail. Actually, he had to write player ratings, which is very rare in hockey. It's mainly done in football. He had to write it on the final hooter. He gave Danny Kerry 5 out of 10, and this was before Britain were actually for the penalty for the shootout. And then he had to change his copy at the end to say 9 out of 10. Well done, Danny Kerry. But he was under pressure that night.
A great night, obviously, in Rio de Janeiro. Here we have comment from Tima Zelinke saying Sander's cam is working. Yes, it is. So we can listen also Sander's best experience in hockey.
Yeah, I have to point out that the home tournaments in Holland, like in the football stadiums, like the '98 World Cup in Utrecht, in the football stadium of Utrecht, and the 2014 World Cups in the stadium of The Hague, that was great. But purely emotional and just from a hockey point of view, I have to say, and Jaspreet will like this, but I had the most goosebumps ever during India-Holland during the World Cup quarterfinal in Bhubaneswar. That atmosphere was amazing. Like, it was just a pity that there were not many Dutch supporters, or there was some Dutch media from the newspapers, but that's what you want with hockey. Like, the full stadium was packed. Everybody had goosebumps. I think when the Indians did their national anthem, they sang along. And you just had like tears in your eyes. It was amazing. And I never had, when you have so much noise in a stadium, you had like 15,000 people just cheering India. Like every time they went through like the middle line, the whole stadium went crazy. And then Mirko Preiser, Terry Brigman, he scored a goal. And then the whole stadium went so silent. Like, the silence is so interesting and so beautiful on one hand, and it was devastating for India. But yeah, I've never experienced such an atmosphere at a hockey match, and I would love for other people to really acknowledge. Yeah, because I asked people who watched it on television, and they really didn't. You don't get that atmosphere really. Like, but it was electric. It was electric, and Holland won 2-1. But I mean, that's not what I'm pointing out for. It's just the whole atmosphere of hockey. And everybody who I sent videos to, or friends or colleagues or whatever, said like, this is like football, like this is total madness, you know. And it was great, and I'll always remember that. And I think the Dutch players, if you ask the Dutch national team players of now, what was their most amazing match, I think some will actually point out to this match as well.
Yeah, the hockey atmosphere in India, it's I've never been there, unfortunately, but for sure it's one of the best things that we can have in this sport. We also have here, yeah, for sure. We have another person writing to us, Agustina, saying, "Vamos, Gaby, sos lo máximo. You are the best." So lots of support from Argentina, which is really nice. And the next question is worst experience. Do you have one? I'm not pointing for any of you. If you have a bad experience, you can tell it. If you don't want to tell, you say that you don't have. But that's the next topic. Do you have any bad experience regarding working with hockey?
I don't know if we can call it a bad experience. I think it has to do with how you're working there, you know, or if whether it's keeping your company or not, or it's against you. And working at Tucumán by the end of 2013 for the Hockey World League, I guess there was 51 centigrades there, and it was quite difficult to be there, and you should see the bugs that were around us, you know, and playing there was really, really, really difficult. It was November, December, end of November, December. It was really hot. Nobody thought about that, you know, and the stadium was not ready yet. So it was not the best place or the best conditions to work. Apart from that, Argentina didn't do well with the women's of the World League, and well, it was all kind of a mess, you know. And we were all getting ready for The Hague, and we were thinking of how the team was going to do, and our expectations were high, and we saw a team that didn't play well, and well, so in terms of that, I would say that was not the best experience, but it's always great to be there and having coverage of all these tournaments.
Anyone else wants
I think
to point out?
I would agree with Gaby. It's nothing related to the quality of hockey. It's generally most of the times related to conditions that you get to work in. Like I can point out a similar experience related to the weather, the hot weather, which happened last year in Bhubaneswar when the FIH Hockey League finals was played in June, and some of the games had to be shifted to 8 a.m. in the morning. The quarter breaks had to be extended from 2 minutes to 4 minutes. So a lot of these measures were taken, which made it tough for the players and also for the media to cover, because they had to sit sometimes outside also, but most of the times we are in the lounge, which is air conditioned, so we don't get affected that much. But still, these are tough conditions to work in. So won't call it bad experience, but it's something related to conditions that make it tough for you to work at times or play.
How about Rod and Sander? Rod.
Yeah. Rod, do you want to go?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll follow that up. The conditions, I mean, firstly, in today's media age, it's a lot of papers won't even send anyone there. So I think we're pretty lucky to actually cover the event, which is just so important to be at. I mean, conditions, yeah, I mean, obviously England, Commonwealth Games in 2014, England beat Scotland, driving rain in Glasgow, and open media tribune was a trying experience. But I think with hockey, it's when there's so much going on in 60 minutes, and you can't write about everything. And with rolling substitutions, and you're trying to focus on a sort of key point to try and lift your match report or whatever, you do miss sort of rolling subs or the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper going off, I think, is one of my sort of downfalls that I'll miss. That a coach brings on in the last sort of 5 minutes and completely miss it because hockey is just endlessly going back and forth. Yeah, I've made a few mistakes on that, which nothing you can do about it, but to try and have your mind going on everything at the same time. But yeah,
it happens to everyone, so that's a natural thing. Sander.
Well, I have to say, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily like the worst experience, but you guys know Dutch club hockey, and I go to a lot of club matches as well, like National League matches, and like sometimes the clubhouse and they are really like prepared for media, and sometimes they are not so prepared for media. So there's like a hockey match, like Bloemendaal plays away like against a small club, and they're not really prepared for reporters to actually report there. And then you're just like, there's like some small party at the club or something, and you're with your laptop just typing, and then actually the clubhouse closes, and then I'm in the car, just like in my car, like finishing the report, and with my hotspot on of my telephone, finishing my report. So yeah, I had that a couple of times where you have like some smaller club who plays National League, and then they just not really fit for media. But yeah, I mean, I kind of find it funny sometimes as well. If you don't have that every week, then it's funny as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I wanted to add something to what Sander was saying right now, and it is that I didn't want to go there because in Argentina nothing is prepared for that. I mean, local matches, you know, there's nothing there. It's you, your telephone. You're lucky if you have a test or anything. So that's why I went to major league tournaments, you know, so that you can say like, okay, this was okay. The other thing, well, that's the usual thing. I mean, you can go anywhere here in Argentina. There's a lot of hockey. Nothing is prepared for media to be there. Nothing ever.
Okay, well, it's funny. Now in Holland, it's like it's like in between. Like some clubs are pretty professional and some are like really not professional, and it's just the way hockey is. You just have to accept it and just embrace it. Actually,
It's part of the adventure also, so it's also fun. The next thing
Yeah.
that I would like to know, it's if you had some good experience with some players. For you, which players are more media prepared, more interesting for interviews or stuff like that? Because not everyone is like everyone, so some players are more interesting than others. That's life. Who wants to pick up?
Yeah,
I
shall I start? Or?
I had the chance to be part of the coaching team with a junior national team that was a champion in 2016 in Santiago, where Majo Granato, Julieta Jancunas, all the new players appeared, you know. And as part of my responsibilities was to like kind of educate these players into being available for media, into showing responsibility as a national athlete, you know. And I was always saying like nobody teaches them what they are expected to do, you know. They are only taught about hockey skills, you know, tactics or techniques, but they are not taught how to respond to media or how to show themselves in public, you know. And I think that this new generation that has been taught how to do that is much better and more prepared. Okay, if you go back to Luciana Aymar had to was raised by herself, you know. Within that, Sofia Macari, one of the best team players that I have seen as a team player, you know, who was silver Olympic medal in 2012 with Argentina, was saying the other day, you grow into the team and you grow into your responsibilities because the team is teaching you. But it's not expected to do that, you know. We should tell them what to do as if we are part of the coaching team. So, but now Carla Rebecki is a very responsible player, and I don't know. I had the chance to interview international hockey players, you know, and they really respond in a better way because I don't know if they are used to this. Okay, Kate Walsh, for example, is fantastic, or Madonna Blythe, yes, was also fantastic, or Blythe, I don't know how you pronounce that. Rob, you can tell me better. For the Australian player, you know. Or the men's team, you know, also they are like better prepared. But here, well, it is a different thing. I would say that for the new generation, Julieta Jancunas, Majo Granato, well, and from the old generation, Carla Rebecki or Pedro Ibarra, for example, who's the captain of the team, you know.
Okay, Gaby. Sander, you were also answering already, right?
I think from the national team there's a lot of players who just, talk really easily and they always give something. I mean, I can understand it's sometimes hard to always give you something, like even when it's like you have some really cliche questions or like whatever. But no, I mean, if I interview Jeroen Hertzberger, who was on the last show of Self Pass, or Billy Bakker, or Valentin Verga, Sefi Fanas, yeah, and like, and Jorrit Kroon, the young guy. I think they always, well, they most of the time they give you something you can work with, you know. And you just sometimes you need just one angle or just one thing to work on. And also you need guys who really embrace the fact that they are doing the interview and embrace that they have to give you something. So like Jorrit Kroon, for example. I mean, he's a really like a proper guy. So, but he really likes to make hockey bigger. He really thinks with you about things to do with pictures, with the interviews and stuff. And you can say like, well, let's go into Amsterdam for 3 hours and then take pictures and do some crazy stuff, or you know. And he really likes that. You know? So that's what I really like.
Okay, Jaspreet and Rod wants to go next.
Rod, you want to go first?
Up to you.
Okay. I would say that the Indian team, if I talk about, obviously it's a very small media community that covers hockey specifically. I think it's the case everywhere across the world. The people or the media, the part of the media that covers hockey is really small number of people. So the team knows which reporter is frequent to hockey or covers most of it. So they become kind of familiar with you and open up also. So on that part, I would say there are almost all the players are quite familiar with the hockey fraternity. So they're very open to talk and come along. Obviously, at times you need Hockey India permission as well to talk to them, because sometimes there are those walls that are in place which you have to go by. That protocol has to be followed. But obviously, the players know, they are comfortable. They're more. You can feel that they're more comfortable talking to you rather than to a reporter who covers hockey very seldom or maybe once in a while. Um, but on a different note, I would like to admit that being a Sikh and from a Punjabi speaking belt, if you know, most of the many players come into the Indian team. They come from the Punjab region, where this the Sikh religion is the primary religion, and a lot of players come from there. So I speak the native language sometimes. So that bit makes you a little more comfortable with players who come from maybe that belt. So so that's one comfort level. But on the whole, the team really knows the media and comes out well. If you talk to them, they will open up. Um, uh, like if you want to mention Srijesh and the captain Manpreet, they come from different parts of India, but they are totally fun guy, and they will put their arm around you and talk to you. So that's the fun part. The team is really well, and the other thing, this the comfort level with the media has improved, because their English speaking language skills have really improved over the past few years. Even now, Graham Reed is very specific about improving these English speaking skills, because he has to deliver instructions in that language, and they need to understand also. And of course, there are interpreters as well, but understanding firsthand always helps. And on that count too, the team has obviously improved a lot in terms of English speaking skills, and that helps them interact with the media as well.
Connections that are always important for our job. Rod, in your opinion, you have someone or several players that you select as more interesting?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sort of Barry Middleton sort of comes to mind immediately, mainly because he sort of spoke from the heart, and the best sort of stuff you would get from him is immediately after a game when his adrenaline is still pumping, and you could just feel the sort of 3 lions on his shirt and who he was playing for, and he just loved playing for his country. He just knew that he just oozed passion, and that sort of got the best copy out of someone, and that yeah, he was outstandingly good. And a very, very nice man to go with it. And then you sort of got the sort of Lily Owsley as well. Sort of the same kind of thing when she's just come off the pitch, she just speaks from the heart again. So it's but I think it's a difficult one with certainly with the English media. I think in some cases it's quite difficult because of the football culture that is derived from here. There's not a lot of sort of trust between the sort of players in the football media industry and the players. And I don't know whether that sort of goes across to other sports, but certainly I think I have sort of quite good relationships. Being one of the only guys people doing it, covering hockey. It's important for players to build relationships with the media, especially in a sport like hockey, which is so underrepresented. And so occasionally I do write stories which are sort of negative towards the national governing body. I hope I never try to do it towards players, because that just doesn't help you. So I think when you start writing sort of negative stories, but obviously we all want to tell the truth being journalists, don't we? It's important that you're sort of sometimes seen as some kind of pariah to the sport, which doesn't really help England hockey. They sort of got to open up more, which is a reason why I love what Sanders doing and what the work he does with Hockey.nl with the sort of independent open-mindedness to journalism. I mean, it's just staggeringly brilliant what the sort of content that comes out, especially in lockdown as well.
Yeah, you really like that?
Oh, it's just there's nowhere else doing it. I mean, it's just brilliant, especially in lockdown. You guys have had a very good lockdown, believe me.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, I mean, we can be honest about it. I mean, everybody knows Hockey.nl is like associated with the Royal Dutch Hockey Federation, which makes it even funnier that actually a lot of people, I mean, there's some people who don't like Hockey.nl or the reactions on their articles or whatever, but the funny thing is that Hockey.nl is, of course, also funded by the Royal Dutch Hockey Federation. Actually, people globally like it. Yeah. So thank you, Rod, for your compliments. And during the lockdown, we had actually with the whole team, we had a barbecue on Thursday, and we actually talked about with each other that for like 3 months we were doing so many stories about the history of hockey and different stories. And actually, we were the first couple of weeks, we thought we were going to go on black, like we quit or whatever, you know. And we just had to be so creative to just do like all these kinds of different stories. And actually now we've done all these different stories about histories or just some personal stories about hockey. We actually going to change some things for the forthcoming season as well. So, but thank you again, Rod. Nice to hear. Seriously.
I wanted to agree. I wanted to agree on something with Jaspreet, who was saying that players are more comfortable right now, not only because of English, but because they get to know the media people who are there, because we're always the same people here in Argentina. Same thing happens, okay? But I believe that because they are very comfortable, sometimes they are also comfortable to say, like, you know, I don't feel like being interviewed right now. I don't feel like, and then what they don't realize is that it's actually your job as well, okay? And that you have responsibilities there. Or like, for example, I don't know, maybe an interview has been arranged to be on air a certain time, and they say like, oh, you know, I forgot, or oh, yes, I was at the movies, or, you know, and because it's not taken as a professional thing. Argentina still has amateur hockey, you know, so nobody, as I said before, nobody has been taught about this, okay? So we're growing into this. Of course, we make them sing, we make them perform in front of the camera. They have come to the studio, they have played their guitars, or I don't know, or even role played. And it's a different side of the hockey player, that maybe it is expected to analyze the game and that's all. But because of what Jaspreet was saying, sometimes they feel too comfortable and they say like, no, I don't feel like doing this. And then you have to be creative, as Sander was saying, no, and start seeing what is it that you're gonna tell.
Yeah, you also have to be, as a journalist, have to be also a skiller. So you can enter the self-pass crew also, because you have to do what you have to do to get the news back. So you've been talking about this obviously already, some topics here and there. Which are the positives and the negatives from hockey coverage? We'll start with the positive. That's the best part. I learned already some things from you guys now, but if you can stand out some positive points on hockey and how it's done, what do you feel like to share?
Who wants to go first?
It's up to you. I'm not saying anymore. It's up to you. You decide.
Yeah, Sandro, go, Sandro, go.
What I really like about hockey, and you have to see it positively, it's a pretty small sport, and you can say, well, it's only a small sport, but I think it's a good thing as well, because all the players are really accessible, and you can really write nice stories, and you can have the time to actually interview these guys and get to know these guys. Like what I said to Thiago before this week, like when I was doing interviews with Ajax, like the football club, and I was doing interviews with Luis Suarez, I got like 10 minutes with a translator, and then I had to like write a story about that, and it was 10 minutes with Suarez. And now in hockey, you can make so many stories you want, and everybody is so accessible. You can go to the training, and you like, I know when Rod was in the World Cup in Bhubaneswar, there was not that many foreign journalists from outside of India. So you went to the training, you talk to these guys, you can do interviews, really long interviews, really in-depth interviews. So I think that's the really positive thing about hockey, actually. Besides that, it's a really nice game.
Let me just say that we still have some questions here from the commentary box. We'll go to them in a bit, but now we are looking to the positives. Sander already told some of the positives, obviously, of covering hockey. Who's next?
I think I would agree with Sander on the accessibility part, because why I would agree more is because cricket in India is really big. The stars are almost demigods. It's sometimes impossible to even reach them, call them, or go through even the PR. You won't be able to succeed at times. But that's not the case with hockey. Even if there is a process in place where you need to call maybe a PR and then reach the player, that is not difficult. Of course, you can talk to players also when you go to training and or maybe over the call. But even if you have to go through Hockey India and call their PR and maybe get hooked to a player through a conference call, that's not difficult. So the accessibility part is really the positive thing about hockey, and which helps you also as a journalist, because you can get more content to write. You get more comments, you get more stories right from the horse's mouth. So that's obviously the positive part, and I would 100% agree with Sander on that.
Yeah. I agree with both of you, but I also want to add the sense of community. The fact that we're all speaking the same language, and there's some things that we don't need to explain, when you're interviewing the players, but also when you're getting to your audience. I mean, they understand perfectly well the feelings, yes, and the situation and everything that's been going on. In Argentina, there are lots of players. We cannot tell exactly how many players are playing for the federation. We can tell that there are 500,000 girls who are playing in different schools. There's social hockey. We have the tournaments that we have in all the different provinces, and here every single Saturday here, only women playing. Yes, there are like about 2,000 teams playing at the same time, and that's only in Buenos Aires, okay, like capital city. So you can imagine reaching all these audience, yes, can be difficult, and it is not. And the best thing is that they all feel the same way that we feel when we play, when we get into a pitch, and we're speaking that same language, and that's why they become available for you as well, and they feel comfortable to talk about it because it is a passion. It is a passion. So they come up with this, and where to press the button, that they are going to give you the best that they have, because they feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just back everything there that's said. I mean, there's the access is very good at tournaments. It's you can almost be overworked at the World Cup.
You were overworked, Rod.
Yeah, I was. But,
Rod was
you
always
did Ireland and England.
Was sitting on that bar stool and writing. I could always figure that out. Rod would be there.
No, but the adrenaline gets you through those things. But the access is fantastic. But I mean, one thing that's just thought of just now is during the coronavirus, England cricket, for example, the way they've kept coverage going in the media is to have a Zoom session every Friday with a player, and a small amount of journalists can log on, and they've got some really good articles and interviews from it, which other sports can learn from, especially hockey. England hockey have not done that. The players have just sort of kept training and kept up their social media presence, and there's been absolutely no sort of interviews or just sort of continuity through lockdown, which I think kind of could work in terms of the world game, when the FIH sort of send out these interviews for the Pro League, saying with a player saying such and such is looking forward to The game versus Holland versus India, for example. I mean, that's great that they send it out, but I think as a sort of a hockey media collective, what would be fantastic is to have a player who has sort of a strong personality, who has something to say, especially as Reuters and Associated Press, the big news agencies in the world, don't actually cover hockey. So I think it's sort of down to not us, but the FIH trying to sort of lift these players. And as journalists, we can log on, speak to them by Zoom, and sort of collectively come up with a story or a storyline that, a strong sort of storyline that he or she says in interviews that we can then tell our sort of readers. I think that's rather than a match preview doesn't really work. I mean, we've got to really lift these players to the pedestal that they deserve, which I don't think the FIH is and our collective hockey bodies aren't doing enough of.
We will go on that, what Rod was speaking about right now, but we'll have a break. Before going to the worst part of the coverage, or why is not hockey a big sport with media coverage, but we have some questions that I think that are interesting, and we will keep on with Rod. I think that Bernardo is speaking about your praising to Hockey.nl, and so Bernardo is asking why is not possible for Rod to do similar journalism in the UK. Why do you think so, Rod?
I'm guessing that is just a lack of hockey coverage in the UK. Is that the question?
It was about what you're saying about Hockey.nl, about Sanders and the other journalists' work. Why can't you do that in UK? In the UK?
Well, it's not a rosy picture. So it's I mean, England hockey. It's a difficult subject. I mean, I remember a conversation back in 2014 with an England hockey official in the Hockey World Cup in The Hague, where I was told point blank that they don't care about the domestic game. It's all about the international game. Now that one sentence stuck with me, and it's still 6 years, and I'm staggered by that. Really, I mean, yeah, fine. They've got to sort of sell tickets now, and they've done brilliantly at getting 12,000 at the Twickenham Stoop for a game last year. They're lifting the international game. That's where their focus lies. But deep down, they really have let themselves down in covering the domestic game. And I don't know why they can't do. I mean, it is a budget thing over here, a funding thing. They can't do everything. I understand that. But certainly, there's so many storylines, as has been alluded to here, that it's endless. I mean, I've got a list already waiting for the new season of hockey stories, which needs to be written. And in the domestic game, there are. I mean, there's sort of it's an amateur game over here. No one's paid really, and it does lend itself to some brilliant storylines with not only clubs but players playing, and with the top clubs as well that need to be covered, which don't. So I can't really answer it. Really, it's a national governing body question. But certainly they should be doing more to not only raise the profile, but also give some love to the domestic game, which will hopefully entice the national media to pick up on it. But then it's all down to TV, really.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, right? From Rob.
Sorry, Sander?
Sorry, it's about money as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's money as well. I mean, England hockey, Great Britain hockey is one of the most funded, the biggest funded hockey nation out there. But a lot of that goes towards the players. But in terms of the communications, there is a healthy sort of 3 or 4 that work in communications at England hockey. But they cover different things, sort of grassroots, the international game, social media is now sort of a big thing. But domestic hockey has been woefully let down by the national governing body. There's a positive picture, hopefully, of a corner being turned for next season. And I think, especially with Investex being lost as a major sponsor of the women's game, there's now no sponsor across the men and women's game, which is a big worry, which goes a long way to sort of, I mean, it's just a question of how that sport is covered now, because there's no love for it in the national traditional media, which is really disappointing. But you can only try.
Yeah, we'll see what goes on in the future. By now, we have two more commentaries, three, from osteopata Inés Ramírez saying, Gaby de las mejores periodistas del hockey argentino, one of the best, or the best journalist in Argentinian hockey. And a question from Miguel to Gaby also. Will Argentina have another player like Lucha? If so, who? Not an easy question, this one.
No, it's not easy, but let me tell you something. Hopefully we will have great players. Actually, we have great players. I don't believe that there's going to be another Lucha Aymar. There's not going to be another Maradona, and there's not going to be another Messi. You know, and people who want to compare them, I think that they are wrong. They are completely different kinds of players. Yes, very skillful, but they are different in lots of different things, beginning with personality, no? And I believe that it's another era of hockey, this one, different to the one that Lucha Aymar had to do. She had to go through an incredible effort to become the player that she was and that she still is, because I'm sure that if you give her a hockey stick, she's going to play some magic everywhere, anyhow. But I believe that now things are given in a different way. I mean, Lucha had to take a van, or she had to hitchhike to get to train. She knew about the effort. She had to live far away from her family, yes, and in conditions that she was not given even any money, not even to travel, you know. And now the thing is different because hockey has grown in those terms, okay? So hopefully we will have great players and they will make the big games. But I don't know if there's going to be another Lucha Aymar. I wouldn't dare compare her to anybody else. I think she should be in Guinness. I don't know if there is another. No, but think about it. She was 8 times nominated, 10 times to be the best player in hockey, right? And she got it 8 times, right? Is there another player of any sport who has been nominated and won for so many times and in such a short period of time for the biggest prize that you can get? I don't know. I think she should be there.
Yeah, bro, that's a good point. Also, here a message from India, I think. Sorry, Rod, tell me.
There is a squash player, Nicole David from Malaysia, who is right up there with Lucha.
So
there we go. We should go for that. We should go for that. Ines, if you're listening to us,
both
we
of
want
them.
them there. We want them there.
Here also from India, I think, saying Erjaz Ahmed, in India, only one sport, it's called cricket, and thanks to media, well, maybe that happens all over the world, in Portugal, UK, the Netherlands, Argentina, it's football, and then the following sport. So that's about it. We have another question, but first we'll go back on track. We spoke about the positive things of hockey in the media coverage. Worst things in hockey. What's the downside of everything? Rod was speaking a little bit of that already, but there's more from to stand out as a bad thing covering hockey.
See, if I can start first.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so the negatives, I could divide it into 2 parts. One is covering media who covers hockey, and the second is the game in itself. I think on the coverage point, we are to blame ourselves as well. At least I think myself like that personally, because we generally cover, and it's part of the profession also, the professional demands also, that we cover hockey only from the country that we represent. Most of us generally don't write about, means many of you might have, but I'm not pointing anybody out, but we don't write about world hockey as much as we should, which would promote the game more. We are more about writing the game that is played in our country. If I am writing, I'm largely writing about India because that's what will get read also. So that's part of the demand process also. So if you're working full time in a profession as a sports journalist or a hockey journalist, you have to write what people would want to read. So obviously, world hockey would not be read as much from an Indian reader's perspective as much from maybe somebody who loves hockey in general. So that's one thing I think we all need to change. We need to write, even if it's a little bit, about world hockey collectively as well, and not just focus on our own country all the time. Maybe once in a month we can write about world hockey. That will suffice. That will do.
That's
So
a very good point.
that's one thing that I would like to change in myself, and maybe others, if they agree, they can do the similar thing. And the second thing I think is from the game's point of itself, um, it's not becoming easy for the game to get new fans and new spectators. And part of the reason for it is the constant chopping and changing in rules and everything that is being done by FIH, which at times confuses the spectators sitting in the stadium as well. Like if I can tell you my personal experience, I have had experiences where I was sitting in the gallery with fans around me, and one of them asked me why they are taking corner from the 23 yard, why they are not taking it from the flag where it used to be taken. So people are not aware of these rules. The reason for it is that they are changed so drastically and so quickly that those who are even watching the game as a fan every now and then, they also get confused that why this is being done. Even a self pass rule where you tap and start the game yourself is being understood more commonly now than before. And similarly, this corner rule, a long corner rule, which is now taken from the 23 yard, that is also something that people get puzzled at times. So these are the two things that I think need to be addressed. I hope the FIH is doing it, but looking at the push towards hockey five, I would want to say that the more interest or the more focus of the world body should be towards making the game more fan friendly and not um, chopping and changing too much and curtailing it further. Means from 70 minutes we have brought it down to 60 minutes, and now from 11 players we want to bring it down to 5 players. I don't see a 5 versus 5 game as field hockey. It will be something else. If you want to
I'm
define field hockey, it is 11 versus 11.
I'm so happy that Jaspreet is mentioning this. I personally hate Hockey Five. I think that nobody will understand it. I mean, if you wanna if you wanna make a shorter team, make it a 7. You know, make it a 9, make it a 7. I don't know, like rugby did. Okay, but playing with the same rules and keeping the same things. Here, the only thing that I can see is that the goalkeeper is dressed in the same way and they are playing with a hockey stick. And then the rest of the rules are any other thing. Nobody understood it here. We had the Youth Olympic Games, and people didn't understand what was going on, and they were the hockey fans, right? And the ones who were trying to approach the game as a new thing wouldn't understand the hockey that afterwards is going to be played, or we want to show on TV or on a radio show if we are broadcasting live. So I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think that those changes were not good for hockey, and I think that they should see some other thing. I understand they want to make it available for many other people to play it anywhere, right? But I think that there are other ways that it can be played, like hockey indoor, okay? And I don't know, it can be better. Personally, one of the worst things that happens here in Argentina has to do with the lack of support of the federations, you know? The decisions that they are making are never supporting communicating hockey, you know, and I think that that's a pity. That's a pity. Beginning with what we were saying with Sander a moment ago, and about whether the clubs are prepared to receive media, yes, but also what happens with the national tournaments. I mean, they don't even carry a list of games, of international games for the players, for the most important players. So we have to build that. You need you need files on the players or things that you can give or communicate so that you can ensure that people are going to know who these players are. Currently, what we have are the little new players, the young new players, don't know our stars, our hockey stars. It is because they are nowhere to be seen. So I was wondering, everybody knows who Lucha Aymar is, but because she was on TV for other reasons, probably, right? And I wonder who's gonna remember Marcelo Garrafo, who is a great hockey player and now he's a coach, or who's gonna remember Vanina Oneto, great scorer, or Alejandra Gula, okay, great scorers. Nobody seems to remember, but nobody's telling them about, and they are nowhere. Jaspreet was saying like we should cover international hockey. We have to start with covering what we have here and have the fans find that we have it here, because if you go for the big newspapers, they will only get like a line or two for anything, and that is about national teams. Imagine what's happening with the best first league teams that we have, the A-League team, that they never get anybody there. So it's independent media, the one that is telling the fans what hockey is about. So we need a little more support.
Sander, I think that you were also speaking something about this topic. Worse things. I don't know if Sander is freezed now. Maybe he's freezed.
Yeah, I'm freezed, but do you still hear me?
Yeah. The audio from Holland for the Netherlands is always good. The image not so good.
No, but I'll just talk. I totally agree what you guys said. Like, actually, I think hockey is maybe getting a bit smaller. Like the fan base is even, like the whole sport of hockey is just, in a lot of countries, is getting smaller, with the exception of Belgium. So we have to really worry about that our fan base is not being smaller, but is growing. Also, with all the rules changes, sometimes we just miss the drama with hockey. Like, you need heroes, you need drama. And you still here? Sometimes with hockey, it's just too clean, Like, you have 4 times 15 minutes. You've got every time, before you know it, the match is over. There's substitutions all the time with the interchange, and you just miss the drama, the heroes sometimes. And I mean, you can talk about soccer, and sometimes soccer is so much more boring than hockey. But actually, people can relate sometimes more to soccer because it's just easier to follow. And hockey is this really clean, really modern game with so much technology, and everybody is super fit. But you actually don't want everybody to be fit all the time. You want to see people get tired. You want to see people like with blood on their faces, or like you want to see dirty stuff as well, and drama. And sometimes with hockey there's not enough drama. Like the penalty corners is just like really, people can relate to that a lot. But we need like, we don't have any like crazy dribblers. It's so hard for, like, even for somebody as Christopher Ruhr or Hetzberger to like pass 2 or 3 guys and score a goal. It's just so difficult. They only can do it in a counter attack, but to do it like 10, 20 years ago, just to pass some guys and score a goal, it's just almost impossible with the way the defense is working now in hockey as well, and the athleticism, I think.
Yeah, the coaches are talking about the zonal and the aerial play now and everything. And what we just said there, Sander, it just reminds me of what Victor Vegnes did, Venier did at the European Championships last summer. With the amazing Belgium-Germany game, which almost was a football game with the crowd, and Victor's goal.
Yeah.
And the celebration, that there was hockey. And for anyone who watched that game, or watched it on the highlights, that will live long in the memory. Which goes to Jaspreet's point, backed up by Gaby, that if the sport goes to 5-a-side, which there's a distinct possibility that the FIH could put that top of the traditional 11v11, which would be an absolute travesty. The coverage of the game would just absolutely go down the pan, wouldn't it? I mean, it would just be, it's just so different writing about 11v11 versus 5v5, even though there's some great stories with, you know, Iran and things like that, and the indoor game. It's just not the same, and there's a real worry that it's that, especially with everything going on now, that by Los Angeles 2028, that the five-a-side or the shortened version of the game could be an Olympic sport.
Rod, you mentioned about Los Angeles 2028, and I would like to ask the other guys as well. Do you think this 5 versus 5 thing is being promoted to save hockey from getting back on the Olympic chopping block?
Yeah, it's difficult now with the way the Olympic program's set up now, because each host country now can nominate rather than the IOC putting forward, rather than the whole bidding process, which has sort of been almost, politically corrupt is one way of putting it. But it's now down to the host nation, so it's a question whether, and of course Los Angeles likes those sort of funky, edgier sports, and we've already got BMX and 3-on-3 basketball and things like that. So by 2028,
breakdance.
Yeah, and breakdance, yeah, to the detriment of squash. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out, as to how the organising bodies obviously wants to save money, with less participants playing in the five-a-side game. What's going to happen in the next few years in terms of how they in terms of how the sport's promoting itself?
I think countries like Netherlands, they will have a bigger say in this, I'm sure. I might be wrong, Sander may correct it, but considering the club hockey culture that prevails in Europe, specifically in Netherlands, I would like to know from Sander maybe, what's it like when you hear 5 versus 5 in Holland?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that nobody really likes five-a-side, hockey fives in Holland. No. So I think that I actually don't mind hockey fights. I mean, if you play, if you have hockey practice, and then you end you have this end match, then most of the time it's 5-a-side or 7-a-side, and that can be really nice games. And 5-a-side is really an easy game, but it can never replace 11s. But I think it's not about Holland club culture. It's about who has got the power at FIH, at the World Governing Body. Who's got the power? I mean, I think the power has shifted a bit to Asia as well. And if they want to play 5-a-side, then we can have a nice club culture in Europe. But if the power of the World Governing Body is more shifting towards Asia, where their club culture is totally, but there's no club culture like that, then we can play 5-a-side in a couple of years, right? I don't think it will happen, but Jaspreet, what do you think about this? I mean, we can have nice club culture, but I mean, we need to have the power to also have a say in this, right?
Well, we have already had a national tournament of hockey fives in the past here in India, so you never know, the acceptance might be there, and it might happen, but it will be a sad day if it happens globally.
Okay, so we have some more commentaries here in the commentary box. Very interesting questions. Also, your answers, obviously. We have here Agostina Bolha. I think that's spelling it right, Gaby. From Argentina, so that we'll be back as soon as possible for sure. Is saying ninguna variante del deporte se puede comparar con Hockey 11, which means anything that is changing from hockey, like indoor or hockey 5, could not be compared to hockey 11 or something like that. So, and Agustin is also saying that praising Gaby for putting it close the hockey coverage in Argentina when no one would do that. We have here also more commentaries, and here a good question from Ernst Bart. Do you think there could be journalists out there who are able or allowed to make an in-depth commentary like Death of a Gentleman about what is happening in our sport in global level? I didn't know about Death of a Gentleman, but I understand already in a fast Google search that is about cricket. I don't know if any one of you wants to answer this good question from Ernst. He has another one. What can media do to help hockey grow? Not the fan base, but the players, because without more players, you will never grow a sustainable fan base, in my opinion. Two questions from Ernst Bart. I don't know if you want to go for the first one about in-depth documentary.
Can I answer the second one first?
Yes, yes, of course.
I think obviously Ernst is right that without players there cannot be a game. So you need to have players, and for that you need to consolidate your grassroots hockey, especially for which I think the various age group national level tournaments, which we call nationals here in India, um, they need to be promoted more. More players need to be given a chance to play there, which is being done now in Hockey India, because they have brought in a rule that one player can play only in one age group. Earlier, what used to happen was that if a player was good in an under 14 age group, he or she could play for the under 16 as well, under 18 as well, as per the state desires, picks its team. So now if a player is playing under 14, he or she cannot play the under 16 or under 18 tournament. So that's one good change that Hockey India has brought, which will bring more players into the national fold, which is from where the players grow and they get success there, and then they feel like playing the game to a higher level, and then the parents also agree, which because that plays a very major role here, because in India it's not a rich man's game. Generally, people from the middle class families, they play these games, and if there is not success for the kids, the parents may pull them out of the game. So that is also important, and to get the access they need to get those chances. And if the players are getting chances at the national level, then obviously the player pool will also will also increase. So I think that answers us question that how player base can be increased. And of course, the academies that are working here in India, they also play a major role. Many of the players that are playing in the national team now, they have come from various academies across India. So they need to be supported well as well to become the feeding centers for the national teams from where the players can come and play for the country.
May I answer? I have an answer for both. Let me go with what Jaspreet was saying. I agree that we have to grow from the base, from the young people. We were expecting a big amount of young players, men, yes, young men playing after we got the gold medal in Rio. But that didn't happen. And it didn't happen because nobody did anything to show around what this was happening, that this was happening, as a massive thing, as it happened with hockey. Okay, because hockey has been considered for women for a very long time here in Argentina, and the dispute here is with football and rugby. So you go to a school and boys are offered to play either football or rugby. And then one of the things that we offered to the federation was like, why don't you start growing into schools, those that have a pitch or they have a gym or somewhere where it can be played, either or a hockey five, as Jaspreet was saying with this tournament that they are having, yes, or a seven-a-side, in the space that they have, or even in the pitches that they have for hockey, that many schools have them, but they are not offering it. But I think that if we don't show it, if we don't show games, if we don't show matches, which are more interesting sometimes, as you were saying, than football, nobody's going to grow into the love of the game. Sometimes when you take a little kid and they see what they are doing, they say like, whoa, they are stunned by the speed, or the skills that are needed of a ball, I don't know, running 100 kilometers an hour and the way that, I don't know, players are playing to try to tackle the ball. So that would be one thing, like go and get the kids, the young kids to play wherever they are. We have to go for them, okay? We don't need more women. We have lots of women and they keep growing and they keep coming, you know, and it's great and they are welcome. But we need more men because this is what it's going to make it grow a lot and it's going to make it really interesting. For the other question about making a documentary, I think that it has to do with money. Again, I mean, I think that any of us would be delighted with like going deep into hockey and everything that's happening, not only nationally but internationally. But who's gonna be the one funding all this? You know, if we get the money, we can all get together. We can do it. Yes, we can cooperate, and we're gonna love it. Yes, the thing is that it is very difficult to get the money. Even to offer some coverage from the local games. So I think it has to do with that. Would we like to do it? I'm sure that all of us would love to. Can it be done? Yes, of course. What do we need? Money. If you have the funds, you're welcome. We'll do it.
You need money and you need heroes as well. Like, I mean, everybody probably saw The Last Dance, right, on Netflix about Michael Jordan. And I was thinking when I think I watched it twice or something. I'm just a bit crazy, but when I was watching The Last Dance and I was thinking about hockey as well a lot, like I'm thinking like, what can we do with hockey to make those things? And it's not possible because Michael Jordan is this superstar, and so you need a superstar as well, and you need money. So it's actually even more difficult. So you need money and you need a superstar. So I mean, you had this Luciana Aymar documentary or film.
Did you have the chance to watch it?
Yeah, I watched it. I watched it, but just name me some players who we can make a documentary now about, which actually people will fund. I mean, tell me which players we can make a documentary about now, or a film that people actually will fund it and will broadcast it. I mean, do you have names or?
No, but Sander, the Last Dance that you mentioned, it's about one single player. So in hockey, we cannot focus on one single player. So you have to find heroes across the world. And I'm sure, as Gaby mentioned, if there is money and if there are people who are more free to do it rather than tied up with their jobs and working for an organization, because that also needs to be taken into consideration. Like, you might not, or I might not be able to free ourselves up for, say, a month away from our work. That won't be possible. So a lot of factors come into this, money as well as making yourself available, then doing groundwork and finding heroes. So obviously it can be done, but it will need a lot of groundwork before you actually hit the ground.
I think adding to that with what Ernst was saying about Death of the Gentleman, which essentially is two journalists who went to two cricket journalists who basically tried to find out about the sort of the death of the 5-day cricket game and the rise of the 2020 game, which kind of has similar things in hockey. I mean, sign me up. Who wouldn't want to go and try and track down Dr. Batra and find out exactly what he's thinking about the future of the game, which is in his hands, and you know, the political infighting in India and all the sort of intrigue that goes with it, especially recently with the IOC. You know, there's so much stuff there, and you take a camera and go and track down at the FIH Congress, and then get to the other side of it, sort of the going to a club and finding out what 11-a-side really means to people on a Saturday, and then right to the heart of the top of the game, because we still don't really know what's going on up there, do we? I mean, it's, you know, there's so much going on sort of politically, and then with the whole Pro League, I mean, you know, it's just who knows what's going to happen to the international game next year.
Lots of questions to be answered. I don't know, Sander, you're saying something?
No. Rod mentioned the Pro League. I mean, you just have to ask whether hockey should focus more on Pro League or more on grassroots levels. I mean, there's just so many funds. So should we put all the funds in more like Pro League? kind of matches or more in the grassroots and development of the game, it's always so hard to know this, and they are trying so many things, like, so it's not that they're not trying, right? But and sometimes in the beginning you thought Pro League was really successful, or semi, like, and now this year it was a bit different. So yeah, it's so hard to tell.
Yeah.
Okay, we are going to the end of this live. It's been fun for more than 1 hour. We have here 2 questions, but it's for short answers. And I will make the 2 questions right now, because one from Argentina she's asking if hockey is professional in your countries, and also to the finish line we have Tima asking which teams, men, women, will win the Olympics in 2021. Your thoughts?
If that happens.
Yeah. Yes. Your thoughts about these 2 questions. Is it hockey professional in your country, and who do you think will win men and women Olympics?
Yeah, if you talk about India, yeah, it is professional. The players get picked by various public sector undertaking companies, which you can call semi-government companies, and they play for them, and then obviously they play for the national team as well. So yeah, because of hockey, their lives are made. So their kitchen is running because of the game. So yes, it is professional in India. And second question was, if you can repeat me again.
The winners from the Olympic Games, men and women.
I will answer that in the end.
Okay. We'll see who wants to go next.
Yeah.
Well, in Argentina, it is amateur. As I said before, national teams are getting some money directly from the government. To support. Right. This that we were saying before, like to be able to just do this and nothing else, but not in the club. Okay. So some of them get some sponsors, but we cannot call it a professional game, And then who are going to be the winners of the Olympic Games? First, I want them to be there, okay? I want them to happen, which is like difficult. And then to make a decision, I would say the one that gets less players injured. Because for what we're seeing in football and what's going on in the comeback, I think that they have lost a lot. Now our players are being tested to see about their muscles, about if they are fit or not. And Rocio Sanchez Mocha was saying, like, one of the Leonas was saying, like, she hasn't been in a pitch for more than 4 months. And she doesn't know what's going to happen. Not that she has lost the skill, but physically, will she be able to respond the way that she has to respond? So I guess that it is very, very difficult to tell. It doesn't have to do with how well prepared the team is going to be, but how much they can recover from these stops that we had to have.
But you don't want to say anyone? Argentina. You want to say Argentina, you can say Argentina, Gaby. No problem.
No, I would have said that Argentina had a lot of possibilities, and not in men. Not in men. I think that it's a new team, that they are not. The other day, Cacho Vigil was saying that Argentina was going to be into the Final Four. I don't know. It will depend on a lot of things, because and getting the blending of these players, It's a complete different team. And some of them are not so young. Not to say that they are old, but not so young. And this game demands a lot, And then in women, well, we were getting really well prepared, but now we don't know. There are players that were going to be here because they were 3 months away from getting to an Olympic game, but now it's a year. It's a whole year. I don't know if they're going to be capable of staying there. So it's very difficult to say. I think that the Netherlands have a lot of chance.
That's why we are finishing with these 2 questions. One is an easy question, is a fact question. The other one is really hard to answer. Rod and Sander.
Yeah. So I mean, Great Britain players essentially contracted, so they're sort of professional. The club game is very amateur, very amateur. Olympics, I'd love to see the cherry blossoms reach the final, just because of we saw them at the 2018 World Cup in Japan, and their sort of storylines when they were sort of go and sort of scare each other down their hotel corridors in that sort of funny Japanese way that they do. That would be an amazing storyline, right? Who wouldn't want to see Japan get to a hockey Olympic final? I mean, just completely transcend the sport. So yeah, let's just say that one of the Japans, the outside, reaching the final would be great to see.
Okay, nice answer. Sander, your turn.
I think you can call hockey semi-professional in Holland. I think there's no other way to describe it. It's not like professional, it's not amateur, it's just semi-professional in a lot of ways. I think the Dutch women are like the big favorites to win it, and if the Tokyo will happen, and they will win it, I think. For the men, the men are actually outsiders this time around, because I think Belgium is the big favorite, the men. I think it will be important for hockey actually for one time the Dutch men to win the Olympics as well, because in Holland the last time the Dutch men won like a big tournament was in 2000, and before they were like Olympic champions, world champions, and actually there's less boys also playing hockey in Holland a bit now, as it's more like getting more women, more girls, and less guys. So I think it's also important for the men to win the Olympic gold and to create some more heroes, and that actually Dutch boys will start playing hockey more. I mean, there's still a lot of guys playing hockey in Holland, I mean, but it's shifting a bit towards the women as well, and should be more like 50-50. So yeah, and after 20 or 21 years of like this mondial or like this international drought, we can use this.
Okay, so that's a wrap. We will finish now.
I'm left with the answer.
Oh, yeah. For the Olympics. Yeah.
What's the last one?
You won the 9th Olympic medal. You won the 9th Olympic medal. That's what
you read my Twitter. You read my Twitter bio, right? Okay. So if the Olympics would have happened this year, then I was very positive about India returning to Olympic podium. Not the color of the medal, but at least the podium. The men's team, that is, because they were playing really well. They had got a good unit together, which was playing together for a long time, and a good pool of 30 players was there, which is in the national camp almost every time, and they have risen to number 4 and in the world and number 5 previously. So if the Olympic happened this year, then the men's team had a very good chance of pulling it off and finishing among the medals. But now with the Olympics shifting to another year and no international games in sight to play for a good part of next 6 months, it's become a little tricky for the men to be among the medals. But I hope they prove me wrong, and they continue with the form that they were in during this year, because they had a lot of close matches which they could have won also, but it left with a lot of promise, where the problems were getting addressed, and the team was getting to a point where if the Olympic happened this year, they could have reached the medal games. And among the women, I think the Indian women's team has been the story of the year. They have played really well and risen up into the top 10 of the world rankings for the first time. They are looking really sharp as a unit. Short Marine has done a good job with the teams, even if I disagree with some of his tactics, but that's okay. The team has done well, and that matters at the end of the day. What I say may not carry any importance. But the women's team has done really well, and I think it will remain the dark horse for the Olympics next year.
Okay, so nice answer from Jaspreet. Also, to finish, we have a message from a legend, David Hart, saying, without the media exposure by yourselves, hockey wouldn't stand a chance. Thank you to all who report on our beautiful game. Cheers to David, which is a legend from hockey, and also Bernardo from Self Pass, obviously. Another fantastic chat with people that we don't hear very often, but are so dedicated to and passionate about our beautiful game. Thanks, Gaby, Sander, Jaspreet, and Rod. Well, let me thank you also, guys, and Gaby. It was really fun to see you and to hear your opinions. Also, I think that it was fun for the everyone that was watching from India, from Argentina, from everywhere in the world, like the other talks with Erzberger and Mehdi Inch and also Christopher Hood. So it was really fun to learn with you about hockey coverage, and we hope to keep on track with each other and to get together again in the future. Thank you for keeping also by your side and also being here with the commentary with the Self Pass. And let's see what comes in the future. In the next detox will be interesting. We had some really fun answers from Sander, from Rod, from Jaspreet, and Gaby. It was really, really fun. I loved it, and we'll be back soon. See you in a bit.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jago. Thank you, guys.
Great to see you.